I remember watching Florida State versus Miami on the kickoff game.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same game that he got baptized.
Yeah.
Oh, the ball is on the ground. It's an incomplete forward pass, and Vandover will not get up.
So what got us really hyped, because I was right there next to him, and I went and I stood over Vandover, and I saw like a little bit of blood trickling. Oh man, I went crazy.
Welcome to South Florida. Yeah. Welcome to South Florida. Welcome to South Florida. Welcome to South Florida, the bottom of the clip of the Gunshine State. What them boys still boring in that way. Big plate, get it for the 18 if you straight. Get K and stop hating, it's the motto of the state. A lot of face, but it's still real around here. That foreign talk that can get.
Alright, we back, man. Caneville. So, first off, man, we sitting here with a legend, man, and I'm gonna introduce you as a Miami Norland Viking. We both are Miami Norland Vikings. We sit with Darrin Smith, Miami Norland Vikings, Dallas Cowboys, Miami Hurricanes, one of the best linebacker corps. Wikipedia claimed y'all was the best linebacker corps ever.
I'll take that.
You would take that?
Yeah, I'll take that.
I know you've heard that many a times.
Yeah.
And I know you know by now. You probably know exactly who they were comparing you guys to and everything. Do you think that's possible? You guys were the best ever?
I think it's legitimate.
Yeah.
You know, me, Mike, and Jessie. I think one of the things when you look at our defense at that time was always, I think the worst we were ranked, but number 3 in the nation. And so when you have a defense that pretty much is run by the linebackers, you know, our system was a 4-3 at that time. And so, we went against teams like Houston who had the run and shoot and all that different type of things, and all of us were able to stay on the field. As 3 linebackers, we never came off the field. It wasn't no nickel. We were the nickel. It wasn't no dime. We was the dime.
Wait. So you played against the quarterback that when Houston was really good, the black guy?
Yeah.
What was his name?
We played against, what's it, Klingler? He was going for the Heisman that year.
Right. Klingler had Klingler too.
Yeah.
Wait, you just said something really interesting. You guys stayed on the field versus the run and shoot.
Absolutely. I mean, we were basically, although we were 4-3, we were basically what they call a 4-2-5 now. I would be what they probably call a star or a bandit type of linebacker.
Right.
And so we never came
passing a lot. And we seem to think that, man, you can't have no linebackers out there. But but y'all was out there. Is it because that the way the teams was back there, they was for speed? Like basically the linebackers were speed guys, so you guys were able to, like, explain that to me, because we seem to think that you got to put more DBs on the field now.
Well, I mean, a lot of times it's hard to find the type of linebackers that we were. I mean, when you talk about back then, Jessie was running a 4-5, 4-4. I ran a 4-4.
That is blazing fast.
You know what I'm saying? Right. As linebackers. So we weren't the bigger guys. Jimmy Johnson, well, Dave Wanstead actually had a scheme. He was the defensive coordinator at that time, and it was a 4-3, but it was built on speed. And that was probably the biggest reason I ended up at Miami. I ran track at Norland, and they saw my speed, and so they were like, hey, we need speed on the field. And his philosophy was to kind of take a DB type of guy and put him at linebacker. I remember. A linebacker type of guy in high school. Those guys were our defensive ends.
Play for Miami, along with Michael Barrow. You know, Miami has a philosophy that has been very successful. They take high school linebackers and make them defensive linemen, and they forget about recruiting tall, muscle-bound guys to play linebacker. Instead, they get strong, fast guys who love to run the field and hit. Speed is the key.
Right. Now, only really big guys we had were the tackles, Cortez Kennedy, Russell Maryland, those type of guys. But it was all built on speed. Everybody else was fast. So when we played Nebraska's and the wishbone and all of that, man, we were so fast they couldn't block us.
But man, y'all was fast though. That 4-4-4-5 back then. Yeah. So y'all was like elite fast.
It was different. it was different. So when Jimmy Johnson went to the Dallas Cowboys and Dave Wanstead with him, they changed the way defense was played. If you remember back in '92, like with the Giants, they had Lawrence Taylor and Pepper Johnson, and those real big linebackers. That was that 3-4, like the Steelers type. But Jimmy implemented a 4-3 at the Cowboys, and all of a sudden you see little guys like me, you know, running around on the field. Dixon Edwards, you know, Robert Jones, Ken Norton. We weren't the biggest guys, but we were fast, and that's the same type of concept that he brought to the NFL. And that's when you see linebackers like Dexter Coakley and those smaller guys, Sims, who was at Florida State. They started being able to flourish in the NFL because it changed. And now it's adjusting again more to a 4-2-5 because, you know, teams, I guess, don't really see as many linebackers that can run like that, you know, anymore. But, you know, we were kind of those guys that kind of changed, you know.
Yeah, because I started saying something goofy like linebacker position was eventually going to kind of go away, and it just was going to be big safeties like James. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because my thought process was that they're not everything's 7-on-7 passing. Everything is fast. Let's go fast, and that it was always going to be a mismatch.
But we were so much more physical. Like, for example, a team like Houston who had those little receivers, they were really quick. Once we get our hands on them, it was over.
The game was different.
It was different. So it was about, you know, being aggressive, being physical at the line. And so it's not a DB, you know, playing man-to-man as far as trying to run with a guy. If we get you and knock you off your route, our defensive ends at that time at UM, they're going to get that pressure.
Yeah, we always had pressure. Do you think it could work today? Could you put you, Jessie, and out there and not being able to touch the receivers the way it is? And do you think it could work today?
I think it could. I mean, basically, we were playing, but like I say, we were playing like a 4-2-5. And so it's just with the skill set we had, we were different. We were different type of guys, and we all played in the NFL for 12, 13 years. I would think it would be hard pressed to find another group of linebackers that left together and played in the league for 12 years. You know what I'm saying? And,
no, that's a testament to how good y'all really were.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah.
Who recruited you?
Joe Broski was my recruiter, and you know Joe Broski was a Miami legend back in the day. He was at Miami Jackson, and he coached Miami Lakes to a state championship, and he worked. So he worked in the school system, and it's funny because I think his last year being in the school system is when Jimmy kind of like, hey, I want you to be on staff here at UM. So he was kind of doing in between, and so they kind of gave him basically a cushy job. Hey man, for your last year in high school, we'll give you an office at Norland. So he just was at Norland, really, you know, just had a spot, but he still was really working for UM. And so, yeah, man. So my high school coach,
what is going on?
Lewis Allen just went, hey, we got a kid, man. You might want to take a look at. And so that's kind of how, you know, Joe Broski started, you know, looking at me a little bit. He was responsible for this area of Miami, so he recruited Carroll City, Norland, Miami Lakes, American, North Miami Beach, North Miami. So that was kind of his area. And it's funny, man, because Don Solinger, who was the running back coach at that time, I remember him telling me the story because Joe Broski he's since passed. He was like, man, Broski was trying to show everybody your film. Nobody would watch it. And he was like, man, Donnie, come in here. I want you to see this kid. And eventually, Solinger said he went in just to shut him up. And he was like, yeah, man, the kid can run. So, you know, that's kind of how I kind of got on their radar. Yeah.
What position you played in Norland?
Now, that's funny, too, man, because in the 10th grade, and if you remember, when I was in the 10th grade, that was the first year this was the first year they had 10th grade and no 9th grade. So they didn't have 9th grade my first year at Norland.
So
I went to Parkway. I went to Parkway Middle School for 9th grade.
I remember that. And
then I went to Norland for 10th grade, and at that time you were still playing JV. So those coaches didn't really know me at Norland, even though I literally played at Scott Park. But I played at North Dade. I was a Bulldog.
How you played for both of them?
Well, no, I went from North Dade. Well, I went from Scott Park. You know how it is, man. One of your coaches leave. Yeah, he take you. You coming with me to North Dade. Yeah, so that's how I even, you know, really got familiar with Norland because we used to practice at Norland. But You know, when I went in the 10th grade, but my last year I couldn't play Little League. They said I was too heavy. You know, at that time they had weight limits, and I was maybe 140, and then I think the limit was 135.
That was the goofiest thing we ever thought.
Yeah,
I
man.
think that made sense.
Yeah,
now.
that was tough. I'm glad they switched it and changed it,
Right.
because you're giving a lot more kids opportunity to play. So
Right.
I was one of the kids that was caught in the middle. Even though I wasn't that big, I was only like 150, well 140 something,
Right.
but the limit was 135 at that
Right,
time.
that was the limit, right.
And so I didn't play my last year. So when I went to New Orleans and tried out, they had us doing drills, and they thought I did good blocking, so they put me on the offensive line.
There it is.
Yeah, man. I was like, man, I'm in the offensive line. I was like, and I was telling Coach, man, I played linebacker in Little League. I'm a linebacker. Okay, yeah, we'll give you a chance. Hold on. And so that first JV season, man, I was on the offensive line, and I think one time they gave me a little mop-up duty. We was beating the team.
Yeah.
You know, they gave me a little mop-up, but they still didn't let me play. And so I said, well, you know, when I go to varsity, I'll go ahead and switch the linebacker. But the JV coach, they moved me up to varsity midway through the season. They were like, hey, man, he's a good offensive lineman.
Oh, it was
So they put me right back on the line, man. So
what was it, guard?
I was guard and tackle. And so
Man in the money.
yeah, man, I was frustrated, but I was thinking about, you know, maybe Carroll City might be the spot for me, you know, because I was seeing that I was kind of locked in on the line. So I figured in my 11th grade that, you know, maybe I'll get that opportunity to play linebacker, but they still kept me on the offensive line. But the good thing that happened for me was in the 10th grade, I decided to run track. Well, I didn't think I could run track, but because I was a lineman, I did what linemen are supposed to do. I did the shot put in the disc.
Right.
We had a dual meet one time against Miami Lakes, and Miami Lakes just had a ton of kids running. And so they had like enough for 2 heats in 100 meters.
Right.
And so we only had like 3 sprinters at Norland at that time. And so they were like, hey, Darrin, why don't you just borrow those spikes and just run to be in the second heat just to give us somebody in the heat.
Oh, it sounded like it would be a good story.
I won the second heat. So in my mind, I'm saying like, man, them dudes are slow. You know what I mean? And
You didn't know you was fast?
I did not know, because
You didn't race in the street with your shoes off like everybody else?
Yeah, I did, and I would beat people, you know, in the neighborhood, but I didn't think that I could run like that.
Yeah, track is a different skill.
Yeah, so I ran, I think like they told me like, yeah, man, you ran like an 11-1. I was like, really? You know, and I didn't never train or practice. I just was doing shot put and disc.
Right.
And then, you know, when from then on, he's like, hey, you run it. And I actually became the best sprinter.
Of course.
At Norland. Eventually, I got down to 10.7. I got down to a 10.7. The only problem is I couldn't gain weight. You know,
Right.
to be a sprinter, you can't get as big as you want to. But what happened is, because they knew I was fast, that the first game in my 11th grade year, we're playing Miami Springs. Darren Hadley is just running crazy over our defense. And so they just called me, Darrin, I'm on the bench with the O-line. You know, I'm pretty much settled in. Well, I guess I'm going to be a lineman. You know what I mean? I'm number 63. What am I supposed to think? You know what I mean? So this was the game plan street. He got a piece of paper. He put on a piece of paper here. You line up here. Don't let that guy get outside of you. That was the game plan for me. And so he put me in. He skipped over the second linebacker and just threw me in.
Basically, like, if he get loose, you'll catch him.
Because
he got a chance to.
He knew I was fast.
Right.
Because, you know, you in practice, I'm running with the lineman. I'm like a mile in front of everybody else. We running gas, and he started saying, nah, you need to run with the other guys, man. You can't run with the lineman.
So when you started beating people in track, they still didn't change your position?
No. Well, because the track, I did the football season, then track was afterwards.
Right.
And so the next season came with football.
Right.
Then they knew I could run.
Right.
You know, and so that's when he kind of like put me there. And man, I just went in there, no practice. Pass. I just was rushing. I didn't know nothing. I saw see-ball, hit ball. You know what I'm saying? And so that's pretty much what I did. I hit the quarterback, picked up the ball, scored a touchdown. We won the game. And then from then on, they were like, yeah, man, you playing linebacker and offensive line. I never got off the field. They still kept me on both.
And always a
linebacker. So I played both ways. So I was a linebacker wearing number 63.
Yeah. When they put you in there to stop Hadley, did you stop him?
We did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, he never got outside of me. That was my job. Don't let him get outside of you.
They never thought to put you on offense? To run the ball?
Nope. Offensive lineman.
We
didn't have a lot of big guys at that time, and they just
so they had needed it as necessity.
It was more. They needed me to play that. I ended up going center, guard, tap. Sometimes it depended on the play.
Right.
Is what position I would play because I knew it all. You know, a lot of times I'm telling, hey,
you was a commodity. They wasn't moving you.
Yeah,
you was a Swiss Army knife when I was alive.
Yeah, and we had a couple of good backs, Mark Niles and Jock Bland, and so for me it would have been probably, you know, we didn't have a good line. You know, we had a couple of decent guys, but we had a really good offensive line coach.
Right.
But we were all small compared to like Carroll City at that time.
They had big lines.
You know, Carroll City had Bembry and all those big dudes, man. And so they were like, well, we got to keep you there, you know, for now. So it worked out for me though, because as a linebacker, I started understanding what the line was doing because I know what I would try to do to like bigger or faster, depending on, you know, even understanding the run reads, looking at the offensive lineman's hand. Is he really pressing hard? If he's pressing hard, I know he's trying to come and blow me off the ball. If he's sitting light, I know he's trying to pass. And so those little things started helping me to be a better linebacker because I played line.
Right. You just said a name that stuck out to me. A big guy named Bembry. I worked with a big guy named Bembry.
He was a nose guard, man. Ooh, it might be him.
Right.
I think it's Bembry. Yeah.
Wow.
And we having to block Godfrey Miles and Tim Polk and you know what I mean? So,
right.
So,
I had a cousin that played for Carroll City. Name was I'm finna forget my cousin's name on camera. This is crazy. He was a running back. He was real good. He played for Carroll City. Then he went to Lakes. Name was Corey. If I say his name, I know you know. He was real good. He played with Scott Lake too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Corey and Bryant. No, not Corey and Bryant. You gotta take this out, Twan. I can't remember my cousin's name. It's crazy. Yeah, he played for Carroll City. He went to Lakes, and then Carroll City broke his leg. But I know you know if I tell you his name. So were you Norland good? Were y'all good?
We were average. We could never beat Carroll City. We would beat American. We would beat at that time American, Miami Lakes, Carroll City, North Miami Beach, and us. We would beat everybody, but we could never beat Carroll City. That's when Carroll City was, you know, going state. Walt Frazier was the man, and he was running the option at that time. And we would typically lose to Carroll City, Northwestern, and we'd go back and forth with American.
Right.
You know, so those we would always like 7-3, 6-4, but not good enough to win state, and like eventually how they got a lot better when, you know, with Duke and all those guys came. So
right, well, yeah, but it was that for a long time. What you just explained. Yeah. Even when I was in high school, that was weird though. They had all these D1 players and they couldn't like beat Springs. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? But Springs beat everybody that year. They had them 19 players. But yeah, it was kind of like still that for a long time. So eventually, because recruiting was different. Wasn't no stars, wasn't no rivals yet, right?
Right.
So was your recruitment big, or did you get lucky?
You know what it was? They would have this thing called blue chip.
I remember that. Right.
So I was considered a blue chipper. And you know, the big thing for my recruiting, it was because of my speed, man.
Right.
Because I was out of position at offensive line, basically. Because I was basically a 185-pound offensive lineman. and actually, that's small for a linebacker. You know, that's decent for a linebacker now. But my speed made a big difference. You know, when I was recruited, I did get recruited a lot. My last 5 came to Miami, Florida State, LSU, Syracuse, in Tennessee.
Right.
Those were the visits I took. And the only reason I didn't go to Florida because they were actually on probation that year. Right. Because, you know, Florida, I kind of grew up loving the linebackers at Florida. Alonzo Johnson and Wilbur Marshall, those type of things. And then Tim and Godfrey who were friends of mine. Tim Polk and Godfrey Miles, who were friends of mine. They went to Carroll City. And, you know, at that time, Carroll City had a little pipeline to Florida. Right. And so, you know, that would have been cool. But I grew up, man, loving Miami, you know, being a Hurricane fan. My first college game was, my brother took me to that national championship game in '83 when they beat Nebraska. Really? And from then on, man, I was
they played it at Orange Bowl?
Played in Orange Bowl. That was the first one. That was the first one. Got a question there. That was the first one. And so
you was there?
From then, I was there. I was all the way up at the top in the end zone. But it didn't matter. From that point on, man, I was a Canes fan.
Yeah?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but it seemed as if to me that you being recruited like that with all those schools, all of this was kind of like a surprise. Had to be a surprise to you because you just was on the O-line last year.
Hey, I was like, I don't understand it. You know, I was the type of guy. Even like my head coach would say things, And I never really saw how, you know, what people saw. They saw, man, you good. I'm like, I never really saw that. I never really saw that. Yeah, that's what I always like. I don't know why all these schools recruiting me. You know what I mean? But, you know, on the academic tip too, I was very serious about my academics. Yeah. And so I was like, well, maybe that's why too, because, you know, I took the test.
Man, they had no belief in themselves.
Really,
you wasn't great.
And I wasn't trying to be like, oh, I'm trying to be humble. I really didn't see what other people saw. You know what I mean? Right. And so, you know, even coming through Little League, I thought I was a good player, but I would always get MVP, and I was like, I didn't understand why, because I felt like other guys was on the team better. Right. But, you know, that just, I don't know. But it helped me in a lot of ways, because it helped me to stay focused, helped me to stay hungry, to always try to get better, you know?
You wasn't great in youth football? Like, how were you in youth football?
Man, when I first played youth football, I was on the offensive line again. You know, so they kind of had me stuck there from day one. Oh, man, you was offensive line. I did. Hard. But then I started playing outside linebacker. Right. And I would win, like, MVP of the team. You know, so I was good, but I don't know if it was like, you know, like you would win MVP, they didn't follow it as much. Huh? You would win MVP for the team? No, they put me at linebacker eventually. Gotcha. And then I started, you know.
So you had to be physical.
It was all about speed, man. I just was faster than everybody else.
But you on the line, you can't run nowhere. Like,
oh yeah. Now, the old line. Now that old line part, had to be physical. And in our offense at that time, we did a lot of like traps and pulling, and so I was mainly the pull guy because of my quickness. I was able to catch a lot of guys off guard. They ain't getting up field, and I'm knocking them out, and running back just running downhill. So yeah. So yeah, my main thing though, like with cats like Ben Berry, he was so big. It was about positioning. I was at center a lot of times against Carroll City. So it was huge. He was huge, and he was strong. He was like really, really strong. And at that time, Carroll City had a weight training system. Those guys were big because they knew how to lift weights. At that time at Norland, we were more like in shape. We weren't big and strong. Yeah. We were very well conditioned. Right. You know, because Coach Allen his background was track, and so we ran a lot, but we didn't lift a lot.
But Carroll City was huge.
Carroll City was huge. They lift I think they had a class where they, you know, where they had gym, you know, where they would lift all the time. And so in the off season, you know, just knowing Tim and knowing Godfrey, we would just hang around them and lift it. A friend of mine, his name is Carl Wilcox. He was all of our friends, and so we would go and lift under his carport and, you know, stuff like that. But I never could get as big as those guys, like you know, the Carroll City dudes. But
my name's Chase Smith. I'm from Palm Bay, Florida, and this is Edge, the best tasting energy drink on the planet.
So you get recruited by Miami. You know you're going to Miami. You get to Miami. Are they Jimmy Johnson there, right?
Yeah.
They good?
Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, they was pretty good. You know? Right. When I went there, man, I was super intimidated. You know, fortunately for me, man, my homeboy was there, Randy Shannon, who went to Norland as well. Right. So, you know, he took me under his wing, but shout out to Randy. Yeah, that's my man right there. It's funny because, man, my life really paralleled Randy's a lot because, you know, Randy, we both played for Scott Park. Right. He played with my older brother. I have two older brothers, Wayne and Rudy, and Randy played with my brother Wayne. And so I was on the smaller team at Scott Park watching the big guys, you know what I mean? And then when he went to Norland, I ended up going to Norland, played linebacker as well. Then him going to UM, and we both, you know, lost our fathers at the age of 3, and so we connected a lot in a lot of ways, yeah, you know, and so that's why we really, you know, became tight. I've known Randy since, you know, I was a little kid, right? And so to see him at Miami, I'm like, wow, you know, like, you know, because that was my dream. I'm like, that dream can't come true. If he did it, you know, maybe they'll have me there. And so to go there with him, man, and him, you know, he take me under his wing and take care of me, but. You know, when I first went there, man, I was, like I said, 185 pounds, and, you know, they had some linebackers there. Bernard Clark, Bernard Clark had to be about 250. Really? You know, and Rod Carter, all those guys were big. Randy was the only other small one, so I felt a little bit better, you know, with him being there. And and Michael Barrow came in, both us freshmen. It was another guy named Sean Thompson.
Wasn't that big, right?
Nah, but he was bigger than me. He was at least 200 pounds. Right. You know, cause he was like the #1 linebacker. You know, being recruited that year. And it's a funny story because when Jimmy Johnson called me, he called me during the recruiting process, and he was like, well, you know, what you think you're gonna do? I was like, wow. I don't know, Coach. I'm playing hard to get you. You know, I know I want to be at Miami. You know what I mean? I'm playing hard. I don't want him to know, you know. So I said, I don't know, Coach. And then he was like, well, what number you want? I say, well, Coach, give me a number in the 50, maybe 56, you know, something like that.
Right.
And so he's like, the next day in the newspaper, it said Norland Star commits to Miami. I was like, I did.
There it is, Jimmy.
Yeah, you know, like, you're like bullying me, you know what I mean?
What you said? You couldn't erase it. You couldn't.
I know. I was like, all right, I guess I go with it.
Oh man, that's crazy.
But when I get there, they give me number 45. So I said, I didn't even get the number I asked for. But you know who got it was Mike Barrow. But you know, he was the guy. And Mike didn't even commit on signing day. He waited a couple. He was trying to decide between Florida and Miami, and so they kind of reserved that number for him. And so I kind of knew, okay, well maybe that's
same class.
That's the guy. Yeah, we came in together, and then Jessie came in the following year.
Right. But you did kind of commit. If he said what number, then you just told him.
He said, if you was to commit, what number? Yeah, he's slick, man. He messing with a little teenager. He know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, if I was to commit, maybe I would like number 56.
It's funny you bring up Duke Johnson because that happened with him and the reporter out of his last game. The reporter asked him, it's going to be the last time you do a backflip in the end zone. And he was like, yeah. And the reporter went and reported that Duke Johnson going to the NFL draft, and Mama was pissed.
Oh, wow.
But that's, I mean, if you want to play that game, you could play that game with kids all the time.
Yeah, you can, man. We young. When I was at Florida State, my following visit was to Miami. So my last two was Florida State and Miami. And you know, they get you in that room by yourself. Like before you leave, you had a good time on the visit, and Bobby Bowden was like, well, you know, what you think you're gonna do? You know, we're kind of holding this scholarship for you, but we gotta know now.
You in there by yourself?
In there by yourself.
That's tough.
Yeah, that's the pressure. You know, you 17 years old, and it's putting that pressure on you. Like, we gotta know now.
Damn.
And I'm like, oh man, well, coach, you know, I can't tell you now, because he knew my next trip was Miami.
Yeah.
So he wanted to get that commitment before, and so
That had to be hard on you though.
it was hard. It's tough.
And that's what I try to tell these people. These got handlers and stuff. I'm like, listen, man, you want a kid to be sitting in the room with Mario Cristobal? You know what I'm saying?
And they know all the kind of ways to manipulate you.
Right.
Yeah. So
no, man, that man gave me chills just then. That had to be tough for a kid.
yeah, it was tough, but I had to
And
hold
you
on.
walk out there, you don't know if you did the right thing.
Yeah, you feel bad. You know, the coach, they try to make you feel guilty. And you thinking, man, that's Bobby Bowden. You know what I'm saying? This the guy I see on TV. He's, you know, one of the top college coaches ever.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's a tough situation. But when I was in Miami, I took my mom with me on the visit. And so, you know, it was a lot more relaxed, you know.
I was going to ask you where your dad was at when they was putting you on the offensive line all the time. Was your dad around to fuss anybody out? I was going to ask you that. Your uncle was somebody.
I was 3. Matter of fact, I'm the youngest of 5. I have 2 older brothers, 2 older sisters. And at the time my dad was killed, we were living in the Scott Projects at that time. And so he was shot and he was killed. And basically my mom, the little bit of insurance money she had, man, she's like, well, we need to get out of here. We need to change this mindset, because all of us lived there. My grandparents, my cousins, all of us were there. And she was kind of the first one that kind of launched out. And we moved out into an area, it was called unincorporated Dade at the time. Now it's called Miami Gardens. Right. And that's kind of how, you know, she got us involved in football. That's how we ended up at Scott Park. Right. And that's when I started meeting men in my life who were very influential. Nolan Ross was my first Little League coach. And Dennis Jackson, he became one of my Little League coaches, and Coach Smitty. And the great thing about those guys, many of those guys were spiritual guys as well. Dennis Jackson was a pastor for many years. Coach Smitty was a minister for many years. And so those guys were the ones that kind of started speaking into our lives as far as encouraging us. And I'll never forget, Dennis Jackson one time told me, because like you said, I never saw it, but I heard him talking to my mom one time, because sometimes he would come and pick me up and drop me off. And then he told my mom one day, he's like, hey, you know, Darrin is special. And you know, I had never heard anybody say that before. But that's one of the things that, to this day, you know, Dennis Jackson passed last year, but we were connected like that. He was the one I always went to for advice. He was the one who, you know, he was the first person that spoke like, man, you could be great. You are special. And so, you know, so after all those years when everybody, you too small, you too this, you too little. But I would always remember, man, but Dennis Jackson said I was special. You know, and I held him up at high regard. And so, you know, people like that changed my life. And so when I look at how, you know, that move from there really changed my life. It would be totally different.
Yeah, your mom did that.
Then she got us involved with Big Brothers and Big Sisters in Miami. And my big brother was very impactful in my life too. His name is Seymour Markman. Seymour passed as well. You know, he passed 2 years ago. But you know, when you get to a certain age, that big brother that you know is supposed to disconnect. Man, we stayed together. Close. Yeah, oh man, you know his wife is just like a second mom. His kids are like my brothers and sisters. But he was from the Caribbean. He was from St. Vincent. So his whole perspective was he could care less about football. He didn't know much about football at all. Their way, in his opinion, the way to success was education. Right. And so that's really why I took education very seriously, and because I was able to earn my master's at UM before I even was drafted. Oh, really? Yeah. So because it was like I'm gonna get everything out of this school I can get, because they're gonna get everything out of me. Because again, I never thought I didn't think I was good enough to make it to the NFL. Right. I didn't. I'm hearing the story now. You know, I didn't. I didn't think. I was like, well, I'm gonna take these extra classes, and you know. The advisor at UM at that time was Dr. Anna Price. You know, she's an African-American woman who took us in like her sons. And so I was like, Dr. Price, how can I get this? So from day one, I was like, how can I get a master's degree? Because Seymour already put that seed in my mind. You need to get it all. So so she sat down, we got a plan, we worked it. And right before the draft, man, I was able to earn that master's degree. Yeah, so, that's what's up, man. And what? Marketing, specialized in marketing. Yeah. So when you get to Miami, you say you was intimidated. Oh yeah. And Randy took you under his. Randy been taking people under his wing ever since. Yep. Randy took you under his wing. As a freshman, at what point did you feel like, okay, I could play, I could be here? You know what, man? I actually started playing early. I played before everybody else. They would make little packages for me because of the speed. Gotcha. You know, Jimmy would actually try to set up certain things on special teams for me. But he was like, well, we're not going to redshirt you. I was like, no, I'm redshirted. So I was a little different. You know how most college kids, they want to go and play right now? I look how big everybody else was. Like, I got some work to do. And I didn't want to waste a year just on special teams. That's my mind. I'm thinking. Right. Well, first of all, I'm thinking, man, I need that 5th year to get that degree, that master's. And then I was like, I'm already little. Let me build up first, and then so that my redshirt year is actually I started playing more. Right. And so I was like, oh, okay, you know, they got little packages for me. Yeah. Because you know, they were like, we're going to do this because of your speed. They had another guy, Rick Newbill, at the time. He was a bigger linebacker. So when they had certain blitzes, they would have me come in and do it. And then, you know, then my sophomore year, I was starting. Really? So I started sophomore, junior, and senior. At what point did you realize that, okay, I'm the shit? Like, I can do, it's you know, it wasn't until my after the junior year, my junior year, they started saying, you think you'll come out early? And I was like, huh? Still caught off guard. Right, you're like, why would I come out early, you know? To do what? And that year, actually, I was the Big East Defensive Player of the Year. Really? Yeah. And I'm like, I ain't really see it, you know? And so I was really up there in tackles. I led the team in tackles and stuff like that. So they were like, "Hey man, you could possibly come out early." Yeah, a lot of tackles. I just read about it. I think I'm like the 4th in UM history in tackles. And so. So was it all 3 of y'all then? Was it you? Was it? It was Jessie. Initially, I started first, and then because we still had Bernard Clark. Well, we had Maurice Crum. It was me, Bernard Clark, Maurice Crum, and then Mike started. And then when Jessie came that second year, he started. So eventually, we all had 2 years of us together. Yeah. Yeah. So our junior and senior year, just us three. Jessie was one of the highest rated linebackers coming out. He wasn't the highest rated linebacker. He was the highest rated player. Period. Yeah, Barrow and Jessie. I still don't know how we got. You in the middle talking about, man, I was playing O-line. So that's why, man, you know, like I feel blessed even to have that privilege. You know, like those guys were the guys. You know, straight up, they were the guys. And then somehow, man, God just saw fit to allow me to get amongst them, man, and be in that plan. And so I always tried to. That helped me. That motivated me. I said, I gotta work hard. Even when you look back on that, you still see that like that. I'm reading all this stuff you accomplished, right? But you still see it like But I think that's what pushes you to accomplish those things is never saying I made it.
Right.
You know, I'm good now. You know, but so even now the opportunity, you know, we talked about, you know, that I'm coaching high school now. The opportunity to reach back and give to those kids the same opportunity. That's my whole goal. My whole goal now is to get as many kids that same opportunity. Football has been so good to me.
Nah, see, yeah, I get it. I get it now. Because your mindset is that you were never Jessie Armstead. Like you.
Oh no.
Yeah,
no,
right.
You're doing number one. I'm like, how is this dude gonna come here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Mike was the #1 linebacker. You know, so you know, I remember sometimes when we were in high school, I would go to a track meet. He was doing the shot put to him, looking like, oh, that's gonna Mike Barrow. You know, I'm like looking at him like he a star.
And you about to go play next to him.
Yeah.
Right.
We become actually roommates. We lived together for a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know, so. And I learned a lot from Mike, man. He was good as far as his preparation because he had an older brother named Carlos who played linebacker as well. And Carlos was very good and detailed as far as how to study film. I learned a lot about how to study film and stuff like that from Mike. Yeah. And, you know, Jessie was the type of dude good at taking care of his body, working out and stuff like that. So I learned some of that stuff from him because that's really what my background.
Texas with that, right?
Texas, man, they have a system.
Right.
They high school football is for real.
Yeah.
You know, you talking about like Little League, they literally have systems. They run the same system from Little League up to high school. They know who their quarterback's going to be. They know who their running back's going to be. They try to infiltrate their system all the way down to the Little Leagues.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What was your greatest game in Miami? Like that you remember? That said UM. Like that you remember? Like, man, that game was lit. Man.
Wow. Jeez. I probably would say the one that stuck out to me was the Cotton Bowl when we played against Texas. I think that was in '90.
Right.
Because man, they were so cocky, man. You know, that whole week they were talking a lot of noise, man. And so, and we felt like we were the best team in the nation that year. We ended up #3, but we had one hiccup. We went to BYU and lost that first game of the year.
BYU.
Yeah, man. Then we wiped everybody else out. You know what I mean? Right. But that one thing kept us from winning, so we knew we were the best team. But in this team, Texas was talking a lot of noise. But no, I had a lot of fun that game, man. We were flying around. It was cold, but you know, but it was a fun game. I think we had over 200 yards of penalties. We had a good time, but we shut that team. That was like one of the top offenses.
Yeah, blew them out, right?
We blew them out.
That's when your boy was shooting the gun.
Oh yeah, Randall was shooting the gun, man. We were dancing.
That's what everybody remember Randall for. Randall
we
like
going
a politician now. Still remember you shot the gun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we was like we going all out this week.
Right.
So yeah, that was a fun game.
I remember watching Florida State versus Miami. The kickoff back.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same game that he got baptized.
Yeah.
Oh, the ball is on the ground. It's an incomplete forward pass, and Vandover will not get up. Michael Barrow separated him from his senses. Wow. That's one of those wide receiver screens. There you see it, and Barrow has seen a few of those, and he's ready for it.
Do you remember that play? Or
man, I remember everything. I remember everything from that game up until the fourth quarter because I actually had a concussion that game.
Yeah,
I knocked myself out, hitting one of them linemen. But before that, it was crazy because you know you hype this to open the kickoff, you buckling up. Yeah, getting ready to go, and then I see them kicking the Vandover, and I see him get to the 20. I'm like, okay, we gonna get him to the 30. Hey, somebody get him to the 40. He going like, shoot, you know, and you know that's our rivalry, man. That was our thing. But you know, it's funny that play you talking about that was like a middle screen, a receiver middle screen. But like again, see, I go back to Mike Barrow studying that film. I remember that week that they had ran that play previously a couple times against other teams. And he said, hey, every time they run that play, look at that tackle. That tackle does this. So it was some little things that he saw. That's why he was able to knock him out the way he knew before the play what was coming. Yeah, he saw it, he knew it, and he believed it. And so the things he had been studying and preparing for, you know, man, when that guy came, he was able to beat the lineman. I mean, he just bought up. So what got us really hyped, because I was right there next to him, and I went and I stood over Vandover, and I saw like a little bit of blood trickling. Oh man, I went crazy. if you watch us celebrating, that's when he did the salute and all us jumping and flipping. And Vandover was druzy.
Did he ever come back in the game?
I'm not sure. I don't remember if he came back in the game, but
it was a few hard hits that game.
Oh yeah. Marvin got Larry Jones that game.
Right.
Yeah, that was a hard hitting game. That's why I say I tried to be hard hit and knock myself out. And you know, it was funny because boy, they treated concussion so differently.
Yeah.
Because
the
only reason they knew something was wrong with me, I started lining up wrong.
Wow.
So I was like lining up to the same, like my body was on autopilot. I was out there for the whole series and my body was just going and I don't remember a thing about it. And I was lining up wrong and Mike was like, "What you doing?" And I kind of like woke up. You know, he in the huddle, he called timeout. "Hey, get him out of here." So I go to the sideline for maybe like 2 or 3 plays. And they're like, "You all right? Get back in there." That was basically concussion protocol then. "You all right? Get back in there."
Did you eventually shake it off?
I did. I went back in. He kind of woke me up when he like "What you doing?" And we was in the middle of the field. I remember us starting maybe at their 20. And when I woke up, we were at our 20.
Wow.
I'm like, what? So I'm looking like, what happened? You know, it's just a span of time. I just don't remember.
Who else did Florida State have? You remember?
They had Dorsey.
Okay.
You know, he was the one that kind of brought them back a little bit in that game. They had the quarterback. Why am I drawing a blank? He won the Heisman.
Charlie?
Yeah, Charlie Ward. Yeah, they had Charlie Ward. Yeah, they had Charlie Ward.
That's all they needed. That Charlie Ward man was the real deal. So Charlie Ward got Vandover killed running across the middle.
Yep.
You know that Vandover kickoff remind me eerily of when Hester ran it back against Florida. Because Vandover was that guy. Like he was.
Oh no, he was big and strong too.
Right.
You know, he
was that guy. It really reminds me of that because it was nothing y'all could have did. That caught everybody off guard. He was flying.
That was a running back.
They had Warrick Dunn?
Yeah.
Man, he played against Warrick Dunn, man.
And they had a big running back too. I'm trying to remember his name.
Pooh Bell?
No, that was the fullback, but they had another tailback who was Floyd was another fullback, but they had another tailback. I'm trying to remember his name. He was a big kid too. Yeah. Jones, I think his name.
Jones.
His last name was Jones. But he was.
So Charlie Ward Warrick Dunn. So yeah, you played against that.
No, they were good.
Guys,
They were good. Then you know they had Marvin Jones on the other side.
Yeah.
Derek Brooks was a young kid then.
They had to have a cornerback because they kept one.
They had cornerback Buckley.
They kept one.
And the ends were like Sterling Palmer, those guys from South Florida.
Yeah.
So they were. It was at that time, man. Whoever won that game typically can go on and really battle for the national championship.
Right. As a kid, we all did the Charlie Ward lift your leg thing, and I'm not starstruck like anybody. I saw Charlie Ward at the Under game one time, man, and it just took me right back to my childhood. It was weird because I had to take a picture with him and all, and I don't really do that. You know what I'm saying? It was really weird. It took me right back to my childhood because we all wanted to be cool, like Charlie Ward. So you had Jimmy and you had Dennis. What was the difference between the two?
But Jimmy was much more of a. Everybody was scared of Jimmy. No, Jimmy was serious. You know, he was a disciplinary. He was the type of coach, man. Like I remember when I was a freshman, and we first went out there. Just the freshmen, we had freshman camp before the vets came in. Yeah. And he had us, really, we were out there doing stations and everybody out there falling out. It wasn't no mercy. It was kind of mental to really make you want to quit. And one of the kids was struggling, saying he had asthma. And Jimmy like, "Hey, well, get your butt over here. The asthma field is over there." It was like no mercy. You better take your butt over there to the asthma field. Like Dennis wouldn't have done that.
Right.
Dennis was like, "Hey, trainer, come see what's wrong." And Jimmy totally different. So he was just his personality. Now, the one thing I loved about Jimmy, and probably all his players will tell you, he's straight up. If he says, if y'all keep this practice raggedy like this, we starting over, he means it. He did that one night, because we didn't have lights at UN for practice. He had us out in the dark just practicing, because we starting over. So, he was the type of coach, he was serious. He expected you to work, and if you come in and get the job done and work, you're all right with Jimmy. But if you're in there lazy, because I had him at Dallas too. He drafted me there, and we had an episode where he traded for a guy from Chicago.
Right.
He traded one of our good players away and got this other guy from Chicago, and Jimmy kind of ran a special team meeting. So we'd be in there special team. It was one of them things where, you know, the teacher kept looking back, like Jimmy kept looking back, and I thought he was looking at me. So you know how you the student, so you act like, yeah, look, you really like looking at the film and really focusing, but what was going on, it was that guy was behind me and he was asleep.
Yeah.
And Jimmy was like, hey, you know, such and such, you sleeping? You not getting enough rest at home? So I tell you what, you just stay at home this week. You don't come to the game. Stay at home and get you some rest. Yes. This is a guy he traded for. He gave like a 2nd round pick away to get this guy to come, and he was asleep. And so he like, you stay at home, you get you some rest this weekend. Don't come to the stadium. They ended up cutting that guy.
Wow.
Yeah. You remember Kirvin Richards at Dallas? He used to back up in.
Yeah.
He used to be at Pitt. We had pretty much solidified the playoff spot. It was the last game of the season. So they took Emmett out and they put Kirvin in. And, you know, Kirvin goes in there and he fumbles.
Right.
And then, you know, Jimmy said to him, hey, if you fumble again, I'm going to cut you. They put him in there, dude. He fumbles. He cuts him at the last game of the year. They won the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
But he's that type of guy, man. He's like, he means what he say, you know,
So he saw it after it came and got you. Like he wanted you because he was going to change the way you said the defense was ran. It was more speed.
It was the defense we ran in college. It was what they implemented, that 4-3. And so when he saw me as a perfect fit. That's what, like Jimmy is that type of guy where he goes and finds a guy that fits his system. He's really similar to Belichick.
Right.
And that's why Belichick is really good, because he's not just going and getting, he's the best player, but he's the best player that fits our system.
Right.
And so I was at that time one of the guys that fit the system well, and I ended up starting as a rookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and this was going to the Super Bowl champion, #1 ranked defense.
Right.
And so I come there because the year before they drafted a Robert Jones. He was the 1st round draft pick. He played middle. Ken Norton played the weak side, and Vincent Smith played the strong side.
Right.
So when they drafted me, I really didn't. I'm like, well, why would they draft me? Because I was drafted in the 2nd round.
Still asking why?
Yeah, I'm like, but the thing is, you got the #1 defense in the league. Those guys are coming back.
Right.
But you spend a 2nd round pick on a linebacker. Actually, me and K-Dub were the 2nd round picks there. Kevin Williams. We both went from UM
I was just about to ask you about him. That's crazy you say that.
Yeah, me and K-Dub we went there together.
So you played with him at Miami?
Yeah. Another Dallas kid.
Why is his name not remembered? Because I remember the plays he made.
Well, probably because his biggest plays came on special teams.
But Hester's did too.
Yeah, but Hester's probably was
Hester's was on special
more
teams
often.
everywhere.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, then when you go to the NFL. But
right.
actually, Kevin Williams this past month went into the University of Miami Hall of Fame.
Did he? Where's he from? Where
He's from Dallas.
Yeah,
he's from Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he went to Lincoln, something like that, in high school.
And so y'all both got drafted too.
We both got drafted there. So we were his guys. And quick little story. This was the first year that they had this bowl game in London. Now they do it during the season. You know how the Dolphins go sometimes, or teams go to London. Well, that in '93 was the first year that they did that.
I didn't realize that started way in '93.
But they would do it in the preseason. It wasn't a regular season game. They would do it like as a preseason game. And so we went and we played against the Lions that year. So you know, and so that's a long flight. Right. And so we get there and they say, look, because when we landed, it was like daytime there. So they said, this is what we're gonna do. Guys, go to your hotel room and just, you know, get situated, and we'll meet back down here like in an hour, and we'll go to the stadium and just loosen your legs up. Well, me and Kevin were roommates. And so we get to the hotel, we in the room just talking. So we lay across the bed, we were just talking to each other, man. Like, man, this crazy, man. We in the NFL and all that type of stuff. And eventually, we fell asleep. And the phone rang. Hey, man, y'all better get down here. The buses are leaving. Yeah. And so when me and Kevin get down there, the buses are pulling off. Because that's just how Jimmy Johnson is. He like, they going to have to get there the best way they can. So me and Kevin are running down these cobblestone streets in London, chasing this bus. Eventually, Kevin gives up. I kept going like, no,
Kevin gave up?
Yeah, I caught that bus. And so they came, and it turned out to be the media bus. It was like the 5th bus. It was the media bus. And so we're following. So we coming up with a plan. Hey, man, hey, so as soon as we get there, hey, just run out and go try to, join everybody else. And so as we're going, we see the first 4 buses turn. That 5th bus went straight. I was like, oh, Lord. It went like a different way. Now, they did end up there. And so we tried to get out and run. And Jimmy was like, hey. He like caught us, and he brought us over. We were trying to come up with something. I just said, hey, man, Cole, we just fell asleep.
He ain't homeboy at this point either.
He said, listen. He's like, you two supposed to be my guys.
Oh, he pulled that card.
Yeah. You two supposed to be my guys. And I tell you what, you mess up again, I'll cut you.
Jimmy had the knife on.
Hey, but you knew he was for real. He wasn't playing around with that, man. So, so we knew how Jimmy was, and so me and K-Dub,
that was a bad look though.
It was bad.
Yeah, and I think about it, it was a bad look. Like they came from him.
Yeah, I'm sure in that room, he was the one that said, "I want those two."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, we had to make up for that. But both ended up playing as rookies. I started rookie. He was the #1 kickoff and punt returner. So
yeah. Jimmy being like that, you learn anything from that?
Oh, I learned a lot. If you ask any of his players, they would tell you, man, he taught life lessons. He really did. Those type of things that we were able to pay attention to. He would always tell you things like, how success can make you lazy and how you win Super Bowls and you tend to rely on winning that, because after we won that Super Bowl, man, the off season was 10 times harder.
Right.
Because he said it's human nature to slack.
It is.
And so he would make sure that nobody slacked. He would be even tougher. It would be even harder. And so, those are the type of things that we learned from Jimmy. And being straightforward and upfront with people is a good, because I had a lot of coaches. And I had some coaches after Jimmy where, they try to be your friends or they try to be too nice to guys. And none of those teams were as successful.
Right.
And I think with Jimmy now, knowing him now, a lot of it was he had to be that way in order to, be successful. Right. And I think he got tired of it, because when he came down to Miami, he had to try to be that same way. It was just tougher. And just knowing him now off the field, being able to talk to him differently, our relationship, he's not really that. He just had to be
that. How do you lead 60, 70 young? Right. How do you lead him? And
it's funny because you see him now, you see him on Fox, he's joking, he's playing. I'm like, yeah, we would have never saw that Jimmy. And even now he comes back to Miami, he's always, when we have reunions, he's always there, and it's much more relaxed. He's a lot funnier and a lot more fun to be around. So.
But you realize, like the drill instructor, he had to be that way. It was all facade. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Edge, best tasting energy drink on the planet. Delicious and smooth with 0 aftertaste. If you haven't read the description and got your 12-pack by now, man, we're going to fall out.
Switzer came after him, which was like that total opposite.
Really?
Yeah, Switzer was more like try to get along with the guys and try to be guys' friends, and people like, Troy and Emmett, they were used to Jimmy by then, and they liked the way Jimmy had our team. It was very focused. And our team was a very, when I got to Dallas, it was very much player-led.
Yeah.
Troy, probably one of the strongest leaders that I've been around or I've seen. Right. He would get this right, start it over. He was worse than the coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I remember being on the scout team defense, man, and the offense wasn't having a good day, and he kicked the ball, run it again. The coaches were ready to move on. They were like, okay, yeah, let's run that again. Troy said, let's run it. But he was a stickler. He was a perfectionist, man, and I think that was a big reason why we were so successful. People like Troy, people like Emmett, Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin probably is the hardest worker I've ever seen. If you ask any teammate that played with Michael Irvin, they would tell you this guy was the hardest worker. We had one off-season conditioning, and it started raining. We all happy. Woo! We don't have to go out in that sun. And I remember walking to another part of the building, man. He's over there running sprints in the hallway, indoors.
Right. Because
he wanted to get his running in. And I was like, that dude different. You know what I mean? That dude is different.
Right, and I don't think a lot of people understand what hard work is. Even some of the kids.
Yeah.
Some of them don't understand it. The ones who do, maybe they've seen it, or maybe something's in them. When you say hard work, everybody think they working hard until you see.
Yeah. You talking about dudes
with a motor.
No, these hard working dudes, they do everything everybody else would do. It didn't do extra.
Right.
You know?
Right. I remember one time my homeboy Torrin told our friend KJ, his dad was Kenneth Johnson, the running back that played for Miami, played for the Giants. He could do practice and then go play at the park. And my homeboy Torrin told, man, sit down with them good ass jeans. And I didn't know what the fuck jeans was in high school, but I got it now. Like he has something that his dad gave him. Yeah. In him, you know what I'm saying, that we didn't have, that other people maybe have to work for. Yeah. Who was the best player you played with at Miami? It was just like he was amazing. Even though we don't know, maybe somebody we don't know, but he was like, man, this man is ridiculous. Maybe he was huge. And
UM?
Yeah, UM.
Man, that's hard, man. I played with some great players. Right. It's real hard. Maybe the best like all around athlete is Horace Copeland.
Man, how many times we've heard that? Really?
Horace Copeland, man, was 6'3", probably like 190, something like that. But he was faster than everybody. He could jump higher than everybody.
What's his name told the same story? Wilson. Chad told the same story.
He was a freak, man. Yeah. He was a freak. You ever saw him? He'll score and just flip, do a backflip. You know, like with nothing. Like you see the guys doing it now, and they're running and they do. No, that dude just stand there and just pop and just flip.
So Horace Copeland
was just freaky, man. He was just and we would do conditioning, man. He's playing around. Everybody else is struggling, battling. He's running across the field. Him and Lamar Thomas would cross each other. Everybody else serious and focused, trying to run straight. They were just freaky athletes.
So let's get into that a little bit. What do you think that is? Is that mindset? Is that genetics? Is that what do you think that is?
I think with Horace, it had to be genetics. I mean, this guy was the state of Florida high jump champ. You know, you go to college competing against guys that like this all they do is high jump. And he just doing it for fun and he win the Big East. Right. And he wins the 100. You know what I mean? Right. And so it's like, no, that's genetics. I mean, he was all muscle, you know, so that had to be genetics. It's just, you don't run against guys, you don't see guys like that all the time.
Could that hard-working guy that doesn't have those genetics, but is there in the locker room with him, eventually catch him like the turtles in the hair? Like eventually
he could
compete, right?
Because I always believe that, you know, hard work can make a difference. Like a guy who's naturally gifted, sometimes their tendency is just to rely on their gift. It
becomes so easy to him.
Yeah, and it becomes easy to him. But a guy that knows I don't have those same abilities, and maybe that's kind of my situation. I knew I wasn't Mike, and I knew I wasn't Jesse coming in with all the accolades. So that kind of helped me to focus and work even harder, you know, and because I gotta, you know, carry my, you know, I gotta carry my baggage too. I gotta make sure I don't be the weak link. I'm not the one that let the team down, and so that's kind of, and I'm gonna tell you, man, being with those guys, we were all competitive. We were competing. We all had egos.
That makes you better, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
I wanted more tackles than Mike and Jesse. I wanted to be better than Mike, but you know what? Mike wanted to be better than me and Jesse, and Jesse wanted to be better, and so that pushed us in practice, man. That made us really prepare. It made us really focus, and we were competing to get those tackles. Who gonna be the one? And so we always hustled. Right. You know, but that just at the end of the day made us so much better as a group.
Right. With all y'all being from different places, right? How did it become a cohesive thing? Like you guys eventually had to be like brothers at some point in time.
Yeah, I think with me and Mike, we clicked because we came in together, and eventually we became roommates, and so we became tight. Even to this day, me and Mike real close. And then when Jesse came that following year. You know, he came with the swag, came with the attitude. We were like, who is this dude, man? Yeah. Who is this dude? You know, he came as the big shot. Yeah. And so I think initially Jesse probably seen more as the outsider initially. But, you know, when he came in and he put the work in and, you know, showed that ranking was legit. Yeah. You know, and so, and when he started playing, and then as you start just playing together, you know, you just become connected, and I think our playing together, also competing against each other. You know, Jesse going to the weight room, I got to go to the weight room. You know what I'm saying? Mike watching film, I got to go watch some film. And that's kind of how we were. And so, and we would disguise it. Hey, let's go watch some film together. But we know, man, I'm going with him because I don't want him to know more than me. But as we talked about it, and you know, we got better together.
Yeah.
We got better together.
Yeah. What do you say to people that say, man, Emmitt Smith ain't the lead rusher. He ran behind this offensive line. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You practiced against the offensive line and Emmitt. Like, what do you, because Emmitt was a legend coming out of high school. Like,
I mean,
in that Florida.
Just think about it. Emmitt started as a freshman at the University of Florida. And he was able to leave early because he put some numbers up.
Emmitt was a beast.
Oh, he was.
But people
was
tried to take from him in pros because that line was so good.
Now, our line was good. I ain't gonna lie. many times in practice, I look over there like, boy, I'm glad they're on my side. That was the roughest part of practice many times, just dealing with our line.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, with Eric Williams and Nate Newton and Mark Stepnoski, Kevin Gogan, Larry Allen, Mark Tuinei. Hey,
how did that even happen, dog?
You know what, man? It's just like I think Nate was there already with the previous before Jimmy got there, but they brought in Mark Tuinei, and I think Tuinei was even like a tight end in college, but he was, and Kevin Gogan probably was the biggest man I ever seen in my life. Kevin Gogan was like 6'6", maybe like 3 something. Right. So, you know, I was like, wow, look at it. Now, our line was legit. We had a guy named Ron Stone. He came in with me as a rookie. Ron Stone couldn't even get on the field because that line was so good.
Right.
Ron Stone went to the Giants, became an All-Pro.
Wow.
But he couldn't even get on the field with us because that line was just that good. So
it's one of those situations where it's like you can't take from Emmitt because they were so good.
They were good. I will say this. You know, that line was good, and but Emmitt was legit. I think Emmitt had great vision. One of the first things that I noticed when I got to Dallas and I saw Emmitt, I was like, wow, look at his thighs.
Right.
He had huge legs. Him and Barry Sanders, those two guys' thighs, I was like, wow. I need to squat a little bit more. You know what I mean? I got to do some squats. Yeah, but that was freakish thighs. He was the type of dude you would hit him, but he's bouncing. He's not falling because his legs were so strong. But his vision was great too. You know, his vision as far as cutting back and finding. You know, you can't take away. Take that away from Emmitt. He did it for a long time. He was another guy. He did a great job of taking care of his body. You know, that's when I started noticing. I got to put away all this Burger King and McDonald's, and because he was the first one that I saw like carrying a jug of water with him all the time.
Right. And
getting massages twice a week and going to the chiropractor. So I started paying attention to that. You know, I came from college. You ate junk food and just naturally, and hey, when it was time to go, it was time to go.
He was able to do it, huh?
Yeah, he was able to do it. But I saw, I'm like, the hitting that he took, the years that he lasted was because he was able to take care of his body. But, you know, he when I was a rookie, we went there. The first 2 games, we didn't have Emmitt. He was in a holdout. And we lost those.
I remember that.
And I remember Charles Haley, man, you know, he went in the locker room going crazy, and Jerry Jones came in. You know, Jerry Jones would always come in and try to encourage guys. Man, Charles Haley was like, "Hey, get Emmitt here!" And he threw his helmet, man, and put a hole in the wall. No, he did. He told that to Jerry Jones. Charles Haley was a different dude, man. That dude was different, man. But you know, another. But again, he's a Hall of Famer as well. I look back at my life, see how blessed I was. Emmitt and Troy and Dion and Mike, all those Hall of Famers, man.
Yeah,
how many guys had the opportunity to be around one guy who played in the Hall of Fame? I'm around like 5 or 6 guys. I went to Seattle eventually too and played with Warren Moon for a year. But that's how long he played. Right. I'm like, that's Warren Moon.
He doesn't get enough credit.
Oh man, he was legit. He's another great leader too.
Yeah, he don't get enough credit. And you didn't even mention his name really. You know what I'm saying? Like gone in history. Yeah, but we started 0-2 that year with the Cowboys. Emmitt Kane. Who was his backup? Who was Emmitt backup? You remember?
Derek Lassick.
I knew you was finna say that. That's what I thought.
Derek Lassick.
The dancing dude.
Yeah, and Derek
all over my
Derek was legit, because that remember that Sugar Bowl game, man, we had a hard time stopping that dude. They were legit, man, and so but Derek, he was a rookie, and so you could tell the difference. He had the same line, You know what I mean?
Right.
It just wasn't as powerful, or it just wasn't as explosive as Emmett. And so when Emmett came back, much more dynamic. And Emmett was strong in the passing game too. A lot of people don't realize he took a lot of little catches out the backfield,
right,
and would make big plays out of it. But he ended up being a rushing leader that year after missing 2 games.
Right. Damn.
So
that's crazy. Did Derek Lexington talk trash to y'all about that game while I was there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he never let us forget that. So me and K-Dub had to deal with that all the time. And we were all rookies, so we were all together all the time. You know, you in the group together, and then I'm like, man, this dude, you know, I'm looking at him.
All
this was the dude. Man, you know. So
no, that's surreal that you go get on the team with the dude. You get to actually be with him and meet him. You like.
Nah, but the main dude I was disappointed was George Teague. If you remember, that's when Lamar caught the ball right down the sideline.
And he took the ball.
So when he came to the Cowboys, I'm like, that's George Teague. You know what I mean? I wanted Superman to be. He was little. He wasn't as fast. I'm like, this dude is not as fast as Lamar. Yeah, he was a good player. He was a real smart guy, but I couldn't see him. I couldn't see that guy who caught Lamar, because Lamar was.
So what do you think happened that night? So what do you think it was?
That just wasn't our night. That's just we just. It didn't feel right. You know what I mean? You know, I think Geno had just won the Heisman that year, and I think we thought we was just gonna go and beat them.
Right. Because it's supposed to be in Florida, right? They upset Florida or something like that.
Yeah. So they beat them in the SEC championship, and I think we probably went in a little overconfident.
But they were loaded.
They were.
They had them 2 ends and
they had Copeland and Curry.
Right.
But they had a middle linebacker as well. Oldham, I think was his name. And he was for real. He was a thumper. But we didn't realize George Teague and those guys in the secondary was as good as they were as well. So
at what point did you realize y'all was about to lose that game? When he took that ball? I think when he took the ball.
When he took the ball, I was like,
yeah,
this ain't it.
Right.
Yeah, this ain't working.
Right. I remember being frustrated watching that TV, man.
It was rough.
Was winning the Super Bowl, did it feel like you thought it would feel?
It was surreal. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because, you know, being in a couple of national championships, it was a lot of attention. But the Super Bowl, everybody in the world is watching. So I'm a rookie. I'm getting interviewed by reporters from Germany and Japan, and to me, you know, I'm not Troy or Emmett. I'm just another guy there. But all this attention is being brought to you because of this game is so worldwide. Right. And you know, and when we won, you know, it was exciting, all the confetti and all the flashing lights. Now, but I'll be honest with you. That next day when I woke up, and I remember saying to myself, is that it? Right. You know what I mean? I was expecting this feeling of we're the champs, and you know, it was exciting at the time, but you know what it made me realize is that what I was enjoying was the journey. You know, being with the guys. Now we talking now. Yeah, it was the journey.
Now we talking. You know,
being in that hot sun, working hard, the extra work, the film work. It came to an end, and now it's going to be. You know, we did it, but now what? And so that is
so tricky in success. Yeah. So people don't realize that.
Yeah. Because I was like, I felt a little empty actually.
Yeah. That when you're trying to get it, could possibly feel better than when you're actually doing it.
Striving.
Right. No. That's Russell Simmons said that. Russell Simmons said when he sold his part of Def Jam for all that money, he realized that the process was the fulfilling part. I don't know. I mean, you won 2 of them, right?
Yeah, because you get to do it again. Now you get to strive again. And see, the challenge is, okay, y'all did it. Can y'all do it again? And so in '93, my rookie year, we did it. In '94, we lost to San Fran. And, you know, at that time, it was either us or San Fran going to the Super Bowl. And then in '95, we were able to get it back because we had Deion come on our side.
I was just thinking that.
In '94, we faced him. In '95, he came with us. And so that changed the whole game for us.
With Deion getting on a plane, leaving the baseball game, and coming to a football game, as somebody on the team, how did y'all view that?
Now, he did that with Atlanta. So he didn't do that. By that time, he was focused on football. So we had him the whole time with football.
Right, but in Atlanta, that's when he was
going back and forth. But you know, he's the type of guy, though, man, Deion is a great teammate. And it's funny because I didn't expect that. Because I remember when we played against him at Florida State, you know, he was so cocky, you know, the prime time and all of that stuff. And so in my mind, I thought he was always like that. But when he came to our team, and even when we played him against San Fran, the antics and the, you know, you're like, oh man, I can't stand that guy. But then when he becomes your teammate, and you're like, man, this is a cool dude. You know, he likes to be around the guys. He likes to be around the team. In off-season conditioning, we would do our workouts, and he would be like, hey man, everybody, let's go to a restaurant, like everybody together.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, because you wouldn't expect that from that type of, that guy at that level. He liked being with the guys.
So what he showed us, you think that he was just social media before it happened? Like he knew, he understood.
He was prime time.
Yeah.
He knew prime time.
The brand itself and all of that.
Because I saw the country dude from Fort Myers.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Who like to go fishing because you get to see him differently as a teammate. You get to see him.
Right.
You know, I would sometimes go like by his house and hang out and all that. He liked guys being around. You know what I mean? And so we had just got to know each other as a pro. So, like, hey, this dude is different than I thought he was.
It's a show. It's like
he knew how to market himself before people really knew how to
Oh no, listen, I wonder where that came from. You know what I'm saying? Because he had it on a different level.
Oh
like,
yeah.
He had the dances, he's rapping, like he had it on a different level. And you're saying that you're not the first person who told me that he ain't. That's not really what he is.
He's a lot more quieter, laid back than you would expect.
Yeah.
But he's a good dude, man. He's a good guy. Jokey, he liked to joke, like little crack joking and stuff like that. So
before I let you get out of here, man, when I saw you at the gas station that day, right? I didn't realize who you were, and that's something that famous people can't pull off. They can't. When you become famous, everybody notices you. Even me doing these little YouTube videos, like go to the store, people notice me, and I gotta watch. How were you able to be so famous, but at the same time not really, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you at Shannon, we go out there, we didn't even notice you. Like, how do you think you were able to pull it? Is it your demeanor? It's how you see yourself, I think, and it projects.
Well, a big part of what I am, what I believe is because of my faith.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm also a minister. I work with a ministry called Athletes in Action.
Right.
And but one of the things that I've learned, like for example, even being a football player is not who I am, it's what I do. And so, you know, I don't allow football to make my head get so big to where I think I'm better than other people. Right. And as a minister, I know my job is to serve, and much of that is understanding that humility is a big part of what I am. And so, even with my children, you know, for example, I'm going to my son's track meet. He's doing well as a freshman, but I'm always telling him, hey, stay humble. Right. You know, stay humble, keep working. And so I always just took that philosophy of having the attitude of seeing others. You know, in the Bible, in Philippians, they say we should have an attitude that others are better than us. That way we're able to serve them better. And so that's kind of the attitude I have. You know, that's why, you know, even with the kids, I don't think my son, people would ask me, does his son really know like what you've done and what? Because he doesn't see like film of me or anything like that. I don't really have a lot of trophies around, like stuff that I've won. I have it in a room, but it's not like.
But he has YouTube.
Yeah, now he does. It's funny because he would be with me and other kids would come, oh, can I have an autograph? Or can I? He'd be like, what? You're like, what? Why do you want an autograph from you? You know, because to him, he just sees dad. Right. Hey, go take out the garbage, go do this. You know what I mean? Do your chores, all that type of stuff. So it's not a lot of rah-rah. And so I really try to give him that too, so he can understand it's not about trophies and things that you win. Those things are great, but you know, my whole philosophy is what will I be remembered for? And I want to be remembered as being accountable, first of all to God and to my family, you know, but also to people who God has allowed me to be around to influence. I want to be accountable to them as well. And so I can't have the attitude, you know, of being better than anybody else if I'm here to serve. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of, you know, the way I look at things. And so it has helped me. Like, I'm always in t-shirt, jeans. Like, people, you know, really a lot of times don't know who I am. Right. And I kind of like it that way because I played in Dallas and I saw what Troy Aikman had to go through. And what Emmitt Smith, like, they couldn't go anywhere. Right. They couldn't do anything that they just wanted to do. Right. Me, you know, I was a good player, but I wasn't a Hall of Famer, so I could go to the movies and go to the store, and people would be like, "Is that?" You know, they'll wonder. Right. They would wonder, and I was like, What? Right. So no, I don't mind. I don't mind. You know the.
No, I think it's like best of both worlds.
Yeah,
you had the
exactly.
experience, and now you're able to be with your family, go eat.
Exactly.
People not
and
really.
Yeah. And like unless you're like a real fan,
right?
You know, and here in Miami, actually, there's a lot of you know serious UM fans. They'll recognize, but they're like, hey, how you doing? You know, that type of thing. They speak, but it's not that like super celebrity thing where you can't just enjoy life.
Right.
Yeah, I like just being able to just chill.
So you at Chaminade. I mean, you at Chaminade, and you're coaching. You coach with linebackers.
Yeah, I coach the linebackers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is it hard? You played the game. Is it hard to teach the game?
No, it's not hard. It's not hard to teach the game. First of all, I try to really be a student of the game. So I think for me the best experience was coaching Little League football because you really had to dumb it down for Little League. But I like to teach the same philosophies, and so basically learning how to teach it to kids was where I first kind of had that experience of having to like really slow it down, take it a step at a time. And I shared with you earlier, I coached Little League at West Pines, and so we would go against teams that were more talented than us.
Y'all ain't getting the dogs out.
Yeah, we going against PPO and Miramar and Tamarack, and so we really had to coach. You know, like so I really believed in coaching the little things, fundamentals. You know, I was when we worked on tackling every day because that's probably one of the biggest things that kids were not good at, tackling, and my whole thing was tackling safe, keeping them safe. But you know, you ask those teams that played against us, they'll say, "Hey, man, they were fundamental." Because I believe that a well-coached fundamental team can sometimes beat even a more talented team.
It can.
Yeah. And so we would always be close. We would always do well. And one of the things that that I always did, I would meet with other coaches that were successful. Sometimes high school coach Emmanuel Marquand Emmanuel is one of those names. He was a defensive coordinator in the league. You know, he coached at Seattle. I reached out to him. That's like, listen, we want to run something similar to what y'all run in Seattle, but how could I dumb it down for kids? How could I keep it simple? And so I would meet with different coaches in the off season to see their philosophy.
Give you a version
of it. Yeah, just do these two things.
Right.
You know, don't do all that. Just do these two things, and that way you can teach it to them. And that's pretty much what I did. And now in high school, I'm pretty much doing the same thing. I'm always learning how do I teach it to these kids where it's not overwhelming. And I'm a big believer in repetition. I believe that kids can get things done if you rep it enough. Yeah. Even hard things, you know what I mean? If you rep it enough. And so I do a lot of film studying, and I watch a lot of film to help prepare these kids, you know. And so I'm able to give them things, you know, give them a cheat sheet, help them to, you know, prepare. And we work on different skills when we're like an individual. I don't do a lot of like bull in the ring stuff we grew up.
All that stuff gone.
But all of that stuff was such a waste of time when you look back at it now. So I believe in fundamentals, man. We working on reads, you know, run reads, keys, and all those things. The number one step, like what are we doing? Myself and Coach Greg Smith is also a linebacker coach, but at Chaminade, man, with Coach Joe Ballard and Coach Cox and Coach Kendall and Coach Greg Pierre. I'm talking about, man, those guys are an awesome group on the defense. Staff. Our offense has a great staff too, with Coach Rowe. And shout out to Coach Damian Jones, man, for I really appreciate the opportunity he's given me to even be on this team. But these guys is a great group in particular, because I'm with the defense all the time. And I think what's great about it, that they're open. They didn't see me as like, oh, he gonna come in here thinking he know it all. Yeah, no, they really was, man. And Coach Joe, who's the defense coordinator, man, he's like, hey, what do you think? And so a lot of the stuff that I learned from other guys, I may throw out, hey, we did it this way at Miami, or we did it this way at Dallas. What do you think? Okay, yeah, let's put that in. You know, so he's not coming in like, oh, I'm threatened by him. You know what I'm saying? He's like, no, what do you think? How can we help them? How can we get better? And I think that's, his willingness to be open is one of the reasons why our defense is effective, because he looks at what we have and how can this team be better, you know.
You've seen so much though. Sometimes you just have to sit back and be reserved and until they ask you, or because you've seen so much. I mean, you've seen things done
Yeah, I have. There's a lot I've seen, but I don't want to seem like I know it all. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of things that I'm learning as well from them.
Yeah.
You know, because the game has changed.
Right.
You know, the game has changed, and they've seen other things in high school that I didn't see when I was coaching Little League.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Especially down here in South Florida, man, we have some dynamic athletes.
Yeah.
You know, and so there are certain things that he said, okay, we do this way. Because we have conversations, why do you do it that way? Things that I may have done different. I said, oh, okay, now I understand why you do it that way. So, and so I'm learning a lot as well. So I'm actually being a student as well as, you know, trying to be a coach and a teacher.
Man, you're the most humble dude I've ever met in my life.
Hey, man. Hey, man, I understand that I've been blessed to be in this situation. I've been blessed with this opportunity, and I just don't take it for granted. And so I want to give these young people that same opportunity, man.
Right. They need it. But, man, I appreciate you coming, man. All right?
It was my pleasure, brother.
Listen, I make sure y'all like, share, subscribe, man. We here with the legend, man, Darrin Smith. We out of here. Man, man. At one point, you putting on the Dallas Cowboy helmet, you had to realize that, man. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I was like, man, that's the star.
Right.
You know, and then I really realized, like, this is really America's team, because no matter where you go, like we would go play Arizona, it felt like a home game. We would go play in the Giants. Man, it was a home game.
I heard the city of Texas, Philly Buchanan told me the city of Texas and football is like something different.
When I first went there, you remember back in the day we used to have Channel 17.
Yeah.
They used to have the game of the week.
Yeah.
No, man. Everybody was on TV in high school.
All of them.
I'm like, man, this is different. And
everybody
had their own stadium.
Yeah.
You know, we all us at Trash Power.
Yeah.
They all have their own. That was back in the day that they had their. It was like, but again, this when I started paying attention. I'm like, man, they teaching these kids from literally like South Lake Carroll. You probably remember that.
Yeah.
Northwestern went out and played. They were the ones that really started implementing. Man, we got to have a system. And see, what happened is a lot of the Cowboys lived in South Lake.
Yeah.
So a lot of their kids would go to South Lake, and so they had a lot of money.
Right.
Matter of fact, when it rained, sometimes we would go to South Lake to do an indoor. We didn't have an indoor practice facility.
So Northwestern beating them like that was a big deal.
It was.
To Texas.
It was a huge, because that was where you saw a bunch of talented athletes beat a program.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I think at that time, I think was Roland coaching in Northwestern then?
That was that? No, Roland had just lost the team because of the Easterling stuff.
Okay.
And it was. I think that was because I don't think Roland had them that year. I think that was the year Jacory was calling it by himself, and Roland had just.
But see, that's when you saw a system, though.
But Roland them created it.
Exactly,
yeah,
but you saw a system against a system with better athletes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It didn't even look like they were supposed to be on the field with them.
Yeah.
And I know they were good, you know what I'm saying? But they looked like they were from two different planets.
No, they were always well coached. They were always well prepared. But against a talented team like that, who was just as well coached, no, they didn't have the athletes.
No, they didn't.
And so in Texas, it's just different. They'll have some athlete. Man, you go around the corner and find athletes around here. Oh, serious,
not
man.
playing,
They everywhere,
don't
man.
Play,
They everywhere.
It's gonna take 3 motherfucking things, and that's what? This nigga was it. One, shit.
I say, big time players step up and